What is up, everybody? My name is Dane Thompson. Welcome back to another episode of BurnDown. So in the last episode, we're doing metal work on Malibu. I was kind of showing you, I showed you a custom patch panel, and then I'm like, oh, let me show you how to cut in one of these pre-made panels on your existing, over your existing rust and damage or whatever you had. And I got thrown for a curveball because the car, when I took the Bondo away, the car went with it, and I had nowhere to attach the panel on the far edge. So lo and behold, there's two sides to the car. Both of mine are rotten, as it turns out. So what I did before I even started this video is I went ahead and I knocked down the area where the panel would attach to make sure we have structural steel there this time. And then I'm just going to run through kind of quickly and show you guys how to get it done. I'm to this step. I want to get it done so we can move forward. We got to put some paint on this thing, but I can't paint it where there's a bunch of rust and panels don't exist. So let's take a look at what we're working on real quick, and I'll show you guys where we're at. So I've already done this one. I did not do that on camera. We got to this edge, we opened this can of worms, and literally I have nothing to attach it to. So we ordered the panels from Goodmark. We did the other side already, which was kind of a fiasco because, as you can see, the rot goes back here. This looks like fiberglass. But on this side, we still got some steel structure. It kind of goes away. We'll see how we go. We may have to make something in this area, but for the most part, the patch should kind of take up the general area, and it'll look like majority of a patch. If we got to make this piece, I'll do that in a separate video. I just want to show you guys how to take a Goodmark panel like this and then cut it in. So again, this is for a race car kind of application, just quick and dirty to get it done, so your car doesn't look like a complete pile, even though you and I both know that it is underneath. This is not like resto stuff, because when I cut this out, the chances of the attachment point being rotten are pretty high. In like a resto application, you got to cut all those areas out, build all the structure behind it before you put the attachment pieces over the top. In this one, we're just going to cut this in and then call it a win, considering I don't have sheet metal there now. If we can have it there by the end of the afternoon, I'm good with that, because we're slapping a paint job on. We're trying to go fast. We're not trying to we're not trying to win Riddler awards or anything like that. So here is what I have. This came out of the other side. I'm just saving it because it's so awesome. Anyway, so this is a Goodmark panel, preformed, and then this is the lower extension on the quarter, and then it goes back to the edge over here. So hopefully it will fit in something like so. Ooh, and it even covers majority of that action. So we'll have to see how we get it to fit in good. Oh, I think, yeah, we're gonna nail it. So we're gonna nail it with this panel. All right, so I like the way this kind of fits in there. Let's get started. All right, here we go. I'm gonna be real professional about this. So to get started, you need something to strip the paint away so you can kind of see where you're gonna be at. Also, you're gonna have to get the paint off this, obviously, because we're gonna have to weld. I use an 1/8 inch drill bit. You get these at Harbor Freight. They're double tipped, obviously a drill. I run Clecos. If you're not familiar with these, you put these little guys in the end of these pliers like this, and then it squeezes the end of it, and it grabs the metal, and it holds on in an 1/8 inch hole. If you're gonna purchase these, make sure they're 1/8, because you can get them in different sizes. So you don't want to put big ass holes in your panels with those. You want to do small stuff. This is for bigger structural stuff. And then last but not least, obviously safety gear. I recommend wearing a respirator even if you're grinding. Try not to suck up the stuff. And then obviously eye protection is a must at all times. So let's get rolling. And a marker. You're gonna need a marker. So first thing I like to do is, these panels all have a shape to them, namely like body lines and contours. So you can essentially set this over the piece, and it'll kind of find its own home. Like, you can tell, where it kind of wants to live, and then you can make sure everything on the panel that they stamp kind of lines up with what's on the car itself. Another thing that I forgot too is clamps. So let me get some clamps. Okay, these are panel clamps. These work great. If you don't have that, little vice grips will also do the trick. So again, panel clamps, vice grips, and then here we go. All right, back to the action. You want to put this on here, kind of find its home. I'm feeling pretty good about that. Then what we want to do is we want to clamp it in place. So there's no rule to that. Just clamp it so you can get it to stay where you think it should live. As a matter of fact, I like to get this, like both sides of the panel clamped up if possible. So I just kind of put that in the middle. Let's see if we can get this front edge kind of. Oh, a little bit more. All right, for the most part, you know, you can see our wheel well opening kind of continues down nice and flush because we're clamped to what's underneath there, if you have structure, hopefully. And then it goes and it kind of follows the body line of what is there. So what I'm gonna do now is we're gonna call this a win. I like where it's at. What we will do is I'm gonna trace the panel with a marker so I know how big the panel is, and then we'll take it off and assess the damage behind it and then go from there. So technically, just because you have a full panel doesn't mean you need to put it in. I guess you can. All right, so here's a look at the outline. Obviously we put the panel on, we traced it, we pulled it off. We just clamped it in place, I didn't cleco it or anything. So the outline of the panel is here, and you can see that that encompasses all of the trash we want to get rid of. Granted, this body line is still good. Above this is actually good. It doesn't really look like there's much damage or anything, but ultimately, to keep it like super simple and easy, I'm just gonna use this entire panel. That way there's no messing with it. It already has a real nice straight edge to cut on or along. So we'll just leave it what it is and go from there. We could cut this down and try to shorten it and then minimize the piece, but ultimately, even if I made it a little bit smaller because I have damage from here to here, I'm not saving a ton of work by cutting this thing down. If, however, this was just my rot area and this looked great, you could cut this panel right here and then just do the same thing we're gonna do, but just in this area. Or say this area is bad, but that area looks good. Same thing, just cut a portion of it off. You don't have to cut this whole piece in if you're getting rid of a lot of good sheet metal. But in our instance, it's bad here, looks to be decent here, and then bad again. So I might as well just take and use what they gave me. So I'm gonna clamp this back up in the similar position because we already outlined it, make sure it fits back where I like it, and then we will continue forward. All right, we've got it clamped back into place where I liked it, where it was before. So now we're gonna put some holes in it, put some cleco pins to hold it, so that way we can take it off and on and it'll land right in the same position. We don't have to fuss with it every time. Plus the clamps will hold it for now while we sink the clecos in. All right, I like to start with at least 3. It gives you support, and then you've got one here, one here, one here to balance it out so it doesn't rock or do anything like that. So we can take clamps off now, and then literally I can just pull this off and put it back on right exactly into this place. So if we do any adjustments to it, they'll all work properly. What do I mean by adjustments? Well, you can see we're a little out here. So I can just hammer that over a little bit, which, you know, we'll go ahead and do, and we can just do it on the car and basically use this part for like the buck. And then down here, it doesn't really roll around and fit all that great, right? So we can kind of clamp this up and give it a little bit of a love tap. And the reason I'd like to do all this before we cut anything out is it's gonna be a lot easier to shape, and we can kind of do it on the car. Like I said, we're not gonna get real aggressive, we're not trying to cause damage, we're just trying to get this panel to kind of move into where the existing is. All right, a little massaging, fits much better. And then again, we weld this, we can push it in and make it work. And then again, this is, you know, probably a little bit more loving, but that'll be okay. When we cut it, we'll be able to push that over and that should work out. So what we'll do now, I'm pretty well ready to rock and roll, I think. So I'm gonna uncleco this, pull it off, clean this edge front and back so when we weld it doesn't burn, and then we'll cut it in. All right, clean the edge, clean my marks off, made sure where this is gonna weld to somewhat clean. Now we will cleco it back on. That's why we use these things. They are pretty magic. Look at that, bam, right back into place. Not a fuss. Life is good. All right, so what we will do now, got it cleaned, clecoed, back in place. I'm gonna throw a couple clamps on here like I had to hold this tight. And then same thing here, this looks decent. So let me clamp this, we'll get it nice and tight. Then we're gonna come back and throw tack welds in. Then we're gonna cut these panels and we're gonna be looking awesome. Okay, so that is our panel in a nutshell. So we got it tacked in place. I like where everything is at. So what we will do is we will cut it in. I'm gonna cut this edge first, and then this vertical edge here, and then we'll come across on the top one. All right, so what I have here is your regular 4-inch grinder with a cutoff wheel. You need to be very careful with these, wear your eye protection. And when you're cutting, again, I said this in the other video, you don't want to be in line with it like this. You want to be looking at it like this, because these wheels come apart, and when they do, if you're like this, trying to see where you're cutting, guess where that blade's gonna go? You guessed it, right into your friggin' cocoa, so don't do that. That's it, let me get to cutting, and then I'll just time lapse it and show you guys the cut in, and we'll go from there. All right, here we go. So if you watched the other video on the other side, this is the inner structure I was talking about that's all rotted out. This is pretty well toast as well, but it basically attaches to the bottom of the trunk floor and comes down flat, and it's got a lip that folds that way. Well, this still has some sort of structure there, so I'm gonna lay down and we'll clean up the edge of that, and we'll see if we can't pinch weld a few of the edges of the new panel to that. But what I'm gonna do right now, so I'll clean these tacks off real quick. I'll get some of my magnets. I got some neodymium magnets, and we will put the panel we just basically cut in over this and fit it to where we like it. We'll get a few tacks on it. We can push it back underneath, clamp it in place, maybe get a few tacks there, and then we should be able to stitch it and get this thing welded in. We'll see how it looks. Here's what it looks like with just a couple magnets holding it in. The gap looks a little bit bigger there because this needs to be like pushed in. See, and it'll tighten up. Anyway, I'm happy with that. It gets a little large down here. I left a little chunk of that behind it. We'll just weld it up. This is all hidden behind the bumper. I'm fine with that. And then there ended up being a strip underneath. I cleaned it up a little bit, so we'll see if we can't grab the edge from like the back side or inside. I'll kind of show you guys, but I only need a few good tacks really to hold that so it doesn't just flop around. But I'm happy with this. Let me get some tacks on it, and we'll bring you guys back and show you. All right, so that is that. We're welded, tacked in place. As you can see, the fit is pretty dang nice. I kept feeling to see if the panel was nice and flush together, but all in all, you can see the wheel well opening, how that all fits in there. We got it clamped. Let me see if I get a few on the bottom real quick. All right, well, there you go. And then all the way underneath, because this one actually had structure, so I had to tack it in underneath. So essentially now, everything fits nice and flush. You take your time, you weld in between, go all the way down the panel, and then start over and weld in between those. And then you want to be able to keep your hand on the panel, not put too much heat into it. Ultimately though, this thing is gonna sink in, but then that's your opportunity to fill it. And then that way too, you leave your body line structure here. So when this sinks in a little bit, you'll fill it in, but then this will stay nice and straight and you won't have to screw with that. So we didn't cut it on that line there. So that is pretty much that. So again, this is race car stuff. This is not crazy resto, you know, trying to do it 100% awesome and whatnot. But I'll tell you what, this gets you in the ballpark. If you got a 69 Camaro or some Impala or whatever it is and it's rotten, it's the same procedure. You just need to be a bit mindful of the structure underneath. If that's rotten, you need to cut that out, and they probably have replacement parts for that as well. So you can go that route. You do the same thing. The technique is all there. You just have to be a little more mindful. But if you go on a race car like I am, this thing is going to look fabulous now at 140 miles an hour, because it was not even remotely that nice, and now the thing damn near has shape. Hell, I could damn near primer it and it would be in much better shape than it was with the paint that was on there before. So that's it. I'll weld it up, grind it down, and then maybe in the next video when we recap, I'll show you guys how it ended up turning out. But all in all, you guys have seen the other steps, you've seen the other videos. If you really want to see something ground down and how to kind of go about that, that's it for this video. I'm gonna call it a wrap. You guys know what to do. Like, subscribe, share. Thank you for supporting the channel. Go grab a sticker, tell your friends. I'm out.